Welcome to the Jiu Jitsu Journal. You're listening to episode 7 of the Jiu Jitsu Journal. I am joined by my co-host, Jack the Cake Carrasco. I am your host, Keegan Os Worthington. Dude. We're gonna be going over Kade Ruotolo versus Mica Galvão in the 2022 ADCC finals. So we did this. I kind of just picked this match kind of last minute because we were running out of time. We need to do a match for this episode, and I chose this one. Little did I realize how much it actually tied pretty well into our last one, I think. And it actually, because we were filming episode 6 and episode 7 6 and 7 back to back. And I did not realize how much they were like two sides of a different coin, these two grapplers, Tynan Dalpra and Kade Ruotolo, how they have very much different no-gi styles that are completely different, but they both work. And they're on the same different sides of the spectrum. And they have some actual things that ring true in both matches. All right. So before this match, what did you know about Kade Ruotolo and Mica Galvão?
So I've pretty familiar with both of them.
Actually, can we do this actually differently? We were both watching this live, I'm pretty sure, but
yes.
we were in separate rooms.
Yeah.
We're you were somewhere else and I was somewhere else and we were both watching. So going through, this is 66 kg, going through the tournament. 77.
Yeah.
How did it feel going through this tournament? And did you see Kade and Mica making it here? And what did you think of them through the whole tournament? So,
at the time that I watched 2022 live, I was not very familiar with Mica. I've become more familiar with him after the fact. I was familiar with Kade and Ty, and knew that they were both very good, but also very unorthodox. They have very kind of strange styles that are very specific to them. While watching it live, Mica, I kind of had a different interpretation of both of them. Mica, this guy I wasn't really super familiar with, seemed super technical, super relaxed, and was kind of just slowly steamrolling through his side of the bracket, where Kade was getting into wild exchanges and scrambles, just somehow finding submissions out of nowhere. The first round with Lachlan, passing, armbar.
Which will say Jack is a huge Lachlan fanboy.
I'm a huge Lachlan fanboy.
So he probably was crying.
I was crying profusely in my room that my boy lost the first round. Made me very upset, but huge win for Kade. Was super cool. And then I believe heel hooking Roberto, and then the crazy armbar out of nowhere on PJ. So seeing them both come to the finals together, very much a clash of kind of two styles. Mica is very calm and relaxed, but super technical, and Kade is kind of the ultimate wild card.
Yeah, I kind of had the same thing. I knew a little bit about Mica before the tournament though, and I thought there was Mica, Andre, and then Diego Reyes. They're all from the same camp, and I going in, I knew they were the dark horse. I knew that's what they were. So I kind of knew Mica was gonna make it to the finals just because I thought he was that good, and I think he was. I don't remember if he was a black belt at this time or not, or whether he's a brown belt. I don't remember for sure. I think he may have been a brown belt, but he was just subbing people at brown belt is what I remembered. And so I thought he was the dark horse. And then I didn't actually anticipate Kade making it this far.
I certainly didn't. Yeah.
Because as much as I'm a huge fan of the Ruotolos, mostly just because they're very exciting to watch. but I did not expect him to make this far because there's something to that wildness factor that's like, what happens when they meet a technician that just can tame that wildness, right?
Right. And also the fact of like, I would argue 77 is probably the deepest and like most competitive division.
Because it's known for technicians.
There's no variations, right? Like 66, I would say is kind of like right there. But in terms of the sheer amount of technicians, because it's kind of like the most common weight class, 77 is a really deep weight class. So like I know K is good and I know he can kind of pull wins out, but I really did not expect him making it to finals.
No, I didn't either. And so when he got there, it was kind of like, I still thought Mica was going to win. But yeah, so watching Kade, he's gone a lot further than I thought he did. Like, no one's able to tame this guy. Like, even now it's been 2 years. No one can really. I've never met now a technician that can tame these guys. Like, I think it was Craig Jones against his brother Ty, when Ty was like 18 and he couldn't do nothing to him other than like beat him positionally.
Yeah.
But yeah, so these guys are crazy and I've always loved watching them, but I didn't expect them to get this far. And I thought they were going to meet some technician, but they haven't.
Actually, I forget, in the Craig match with Ty, did he knee bar him or was it just close?
It was just really close.
Okay.
I think it was just really close. I thought it went to decision.
Part of my brain says that he knee barred him.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look at it later.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter, but still, it was a close match.
Point being, they're really hard to get a hold of.
Yeah, and he was like 18 at the time.
Yeah.
And I think they're really gifted. They have a very unique style, and it makes for a very interesting and fun watch. All right, we are back. I had to take a little bit of a detour to get the match all set up on the screen. But we're at the start. We're going to go off match time. Again, Kade Ruotolo versus Mica Galvão. They're just shaking hands. That ref's hair is crazy, dude.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that guy.
Why do the ADC refs have like the worst hair in the world? Okay, I will try my best to give you the insights on the stand-up here, but I'll just say one person is doing something technically right. Kade, I don't know what the fuck he's doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
it's kind of both of them do this, but Kade in particular just does like weird shit on the feet. Like that he does this constantly where he'll like nonchalant, like almost like walk off and then come back like he's fooling you or something.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
He'll
like reach for ankle picks from distance.
Yeah, with the inside on the inside.
And sometimes it works. It's such a weird style.
And again, he does all the things we say not to do in the Marigali versus Kynan match, where he like will reach with his front hand. You don't care.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if it works, it works. He's like the king of being off balanced constantly and just not falling over. There we go. Okay, we're going to pause real fast and go back on that. We're at the 18-40 minute mark of the match. Around there. We were talking about it on the last episode, if you were listening, which is why it ties into this one at 0.5. Snatch versus shooting singles. And this is why we see it at this high level too, because defensive wrestling is easier and stronger than offensive wrestling. He literally touches and grabs one, but Mica does the same thing, actually just gets it. Boop, and just pulls it up.
Yep. I want that leg. And very smart where we get here, snatches the single and then immediately goes to a tight waist. And they can enter this kind of dogfight of Mica trying to bull him over and Kade trying to Uchimata him.
And at some point, Mica shoots under to try and get under him. But Kade does a really good job of underhooking right here.
Yeah, on that roll through, Kade snatches an underhook and kind of almost has like a 100%er grip here.
Yeah.
Of almost kind of a neck crank.
Yeah, it just ties him up
with his lat over his head, forcing Mica to play kind of a shitty bottom half here.
Yeah. Terrible position. But from here, if you know, we're paused at 18:21 after we'd slowed it down. Kade is wrapping his arm around the head into this kind of like front headlock. And Kade is known for his neck attacks from positions like this. He's very good.
Particularly Darces.
The Darces, somewhat of a Darce specialist. And with that, he doesn't have a bunch of anacondas on his resume, but you don't just have one, like a good Darce and then a bad anaconda. Yeah, so.
Yeah. So, I think the camera will shift a little bit, but you can see Mica has both of his hands on Kade's left wrist because he knows if that hand goes behind his head, he's getting Darce.
Yeah.
He's like, I want that hand as far away from me as possible.
Then knocking it back into normal speed at the 18:13 mark. And we got Kade in top half. And this is where he does things where, like I was saying before, I was talking to Jack about it. Right here, Mica gets an underhook at the 18:04. I'm just going to pause it real fast. He does things, he does the wrong things the right way. So from here, you should technically want an underhook. But Kade says, I don't really care if you have an underhook. I'm just going to stay as tight as possible so you can't move the underhook. And now I've just got your arm trapped.
Yeah. And like to his credit is on Mica's elbow and has him almost flattened out, which kind of negates the strength of the underhook. But still also kind of like doesn't care that he has the underhook. He's like, I'm just going to flatten you out and it won't matter.
Yeah. Playing up. And he's cranking his head up with a crossface. And he's got no underhook here, but he's creating like flattening pressure. And this just goes into his style. He's like a wet blanket, just smothering everything.
Yeah, and then here Mica is able to get some of an angle on the underhook. And kind of the story of this match immediately tries to enter the legs of Kade with kind of a backstep entry here.
We're going to slow it down because a lot of craziness kind of happens here.
Yeah.
And it's, you see Kade try to jump back on a leg lock. I don't know what he's looking for specifically. I think he finds it, but he tries to push forward. But it's almost like he wants this leg to shoot too far forward, right?
Yeah, you can see. So Kade almost kind of shoots himself. So when Mica goes to backstep, he does not have Kade's knee. So he's in more of like a... this position actually gets repeated later. He's in almost kind of like a bear trap, like kind of calf slicer situation. But not quite to that yet.
Yeah. Kade does this great job of always just hooking and finding stuff to negate his opponents from what they're trying to do.
Right. Here they have almost kind of like a pseudo Barambola moment. And Kade finds the spot in the scramble to come on top and just wet blanket again.
Yeah.
Forcing Mica to play guard.
And just again, he's just wrapped over the top and just like bear hugging him.
Yeah.
Just squeezing him to stop the effectiveness of these underhooks. Going back to normal at 17-12.
And I don't believe he does it here, but to his credit, it would be a great entry into a body lock pass on that left side, clamping over the underhook. But instead, Mica somewhat elevates again. And they're going to come to another potential leg entry. Kade, throughout this match, does a phenomenal job of immediately freeing his knee from any of these leg entries.
Okay. So this is where like it's almost like ticks me off because he does everything wrong that you're not supposed to do if you're actually a competitive grappler. Like everything wrong. We're at a 16:43 mark, and they reset, slap and bump, and he steps just into his guard and just lets him get whatever grip he wants.
Yeah, not even to a hamstring, just directly in the center. Just here, have this leg.
Yes. I would never recommend this to anyone.
No.
Like, and that's what's so crazy about him. And it's kind of annoying because he makes it work. And we were talking about it before the podcast started. Like, I'm not nearly as athletic or gifted as Kade Ruotolo, but if there was someone that I realize has a very similar style to me, or I have a very similar style, it's to the Ruotolos. And like to Keenan, and it's where it's like almost ugly and bad and annoying jiu-jitsu. And you do like, this is, to me, is like, if I saw someone I was coaching doing this, I would be like, what are you doing? That's lazy as hell.
Yeah, if you were a coach and you had a student do this like in a class or in a role, like you would more than likely be like, hey, you should step to a hamstring or like try to outside pass or like anything else. Yes. They just step directly to the center and let them grab you.
But this is what I do also, like every time I roll, because I also just am like, I get impatient with the hand fight and I just want to be engaged in the grapple, like in the grappling.
Yeah.
It's like playing chess. I'm just going to throw my first pawn out there. I don't care which one it is. Just go.
Yeah.
Right. It's just an impatience thing. And like, he just sits there and like puts his foot forward. I would never recommend anyone do this. Yeah. But again, he makes it work.
There is something I want to mention here of like that you said like you do it in practice. I will also occasionally do this against people like newer white belts or like people I know that I'm better than, just because I want to see like where that engagement goes. You mean like, okay, what offense are they going to try, and then can I negate that? I have a suspicion in my mind that that's probably what they do in practice all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they obviously have their leg pinning and, like, north-south passing and whatnot, but I guarantee in the gym, they just do this constantly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to step in, see what happens.
Yeah.
And so they're probably comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're going to talk about it at the end. Just the Ruotolo style is as close as possible to if there was a boxer and their style was a counterpunching knockout artist. That's basically what they are.
Yeah.
So he's basically his whole game is based on what the reactions or what are the grips that Mica has and what are my counters to his grips. All right. So he just lets Mica get a hold of his leg and fall to the side, and he cuts through.
Yeah, he's like, okay, sure.
And
you
then
have it.
Immediately, yeah, we're paused at 16:30 again. There's so much, but immediately just does this leg pin, which I need to do more often.
Yep. Surprisingly, like, really effective passing system. It on the surface almost seems like stupid, of like, oh, you're just stepping on their leg, like they can get it back. It's actually very difficult to get your leg back.
Yeah.
Also, actually, if you can back this up a little bit, there's a moment here from Mica that I find kind of fascinating. So Kade is almost in on a knee cut, and Mica wraps like a pseudo close guard around him, like in a knee cut. It's a very strange position.
I actually do this.
Oh yeah,
yeah. This is a Hodrick Gracie thing.
Really?
He likes to do this. So he lets people. So when they do that classic close guard break and then they put their knee up the middle, he lets the knee slip and then locks his legs again. And then what it does is it makes sure all their weight's on this side. So, and then if you just tip, you've taken away that post on the left side and you just tip them. Now, you've got shorter legs, so I don't know how often you'd be able to do.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd really do this, to be honest.
But Hodger is really long legs. I have really long legs, but I do that. And I learned it from Hodger. So you see it, he tilts him the other way just a little bit, or tries to. But then he puts his weight forward instead.
Yeah.
Instead of back. was gonna say, this just shows how like confident they are in their balance too. Like he gets airborne for a second here, like there. Like his ability to stay balanced and just let his opponent put as much energy into moving him as possible, and then just, okay, where am I gonna land? Oh, I guess I'm landing here.
Right, like I'll let you burst and try to lift me, like spend some energy, and I'll just float. And okay, now I'm here.
Yeah.
Very common story throughout this match. Mica doing K-guard entries. Something I do really like about how he does his K-guard here is instead of trying to go to backside 50-50, he almost spins through further on his K-guard entries to go into saddle or potentially like towards the back, which I find like really cool.
I find something even stupider cool, but it's from Kade. What he does right here, slow mo. It's on the 15:50 mark. If you pause it,
Incredible.
if your opponent is trying to K guard you, just take your hand and try to smother them.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, like I love that because it doesn't really accomplish anything. Like the entry still happens.
Yeah,
he still has to defend like in a normal way, but just like any opportunity he has to like fuck with the other person, he takes it.
Yes,
it's so good.
If there's any way I can get the person mad, annoyed, rash, any way that changes what they want to do, like how they play the game, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And if it's mean, I don't really care.
Yeah, like throughout this match, constantly is like smothering Mica from a position just like that doesn't even make any sense.
Yes.
Like this, or like later on from like guards. There's a moment later where he tries to wrist lock Mica. It's very funny. Yeah, so this entry I find fascinating. So he goes backside 50-50. Kade backsteps, so he spins through further to go to saddle. Kade does the proper response and spins out. And then Mica reaches for the waist to try to hit a back take here. And Kade almost kind of backsteps again. And so they end up in close guard. So this right here, this saddle to back take thing, is something that I've seen from Lachlan. There was a little like sub-meta clip where he kind of went over it. I've tried this in training. It feels terrible. It feels fucking awful. All I'll say.
To do what?
If you bring it forward just a touch, where he like has saddle and is going from saddle to, like to the back, right? So just kind of let it play. So they're here, boom.
Oh, and then he goes saddle.
So he tries to go saddle, and Kade turns. So from saddle to then like reaching to the waist to like go back take, right?
Oh.
So it feels, again, I can't iterate this enough. It feels fucking terrible.
Why would you do it?
So the clip that I saw from Lachlan is you like grab the waist and then you have to like pummel your saddle like out.
Yeah.
Which with is what your other leg and then like back behind the knee. In practice, the feeling of having your leg stuck in between, like as a saddle hook, while also reaching for the back, it just feels horrible on your leg.
To me, it looks horrible on the spine.
Yeah, on the spine, like on your knee, it's, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a monkey, and it's a move that like I have to practice more. But to me, I would say just try to respin. This like,
is this foot hooked too far deep when you do it?
Maybe potentially.
Yeah, that seems horrible.
Yeah, it's I don't know.
Love the
it's one of the moves for me that I feel like is probably a better option than doing that.
And even here, I feel like there's no weight to push forward on this. I don't know. I feel like if he posts this leg out and just pushed back into you, it would be a horrible place to be.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, he comes up on it, and it doesn't even work out well for him.
Yeah, he still gets put in like bottom close guard.
Yeah. We'll talk about it a little bit more. 15:30 normal speed. They're slamming an ADCC. I don't know why he didn't, but maybe he just liked the idea of being at the top. If he slammed, he would have been stuck in close guard on the ground.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think Kade's mindset is probably like, I'll stay standing and try to force him to hit another entry. Because he does go for the exact same entry. He drops down into like a K guard. Which I think Kade kind of anticipates here. So, again, scoops, tries to go K, and Kade just kind of backsteps. To his credit, Mica gets a little deeper on this one. But Kade, being the gamer that he is, sees a foot in front of him and goes, "Hey, I'll steam lock that." Forcing Mica to kind of readjust, open his legs. Believe he does it again. It might be from a different moment.
It's so funny because we think that like Kade is in the fire here, but it's almost like he thrives here. Right? And it's like he has no problem actually being here. When we think of normal grapplers, like you don't want to be here. He's like, I can't wait until they put their foot in a bad spot because they think they have me. Like that's all he's thinking is like, they're going to put their foot somewhere and I'm going to snap it in half. Like, you can have my foot. It's going to make you put your foot in a stupid spot.
Yeah. Which he does like 3 times this match. Yeah. I believe it might be this engagement where he almost heel hooks Mica. Yeah. This is another moment where he almost steam locks him, and then ultimately the finish at the end.
So yeah, he goes to the bear trap here.
Yeah, kind of goes bear trap. Kade almost kind of looking for like a berimbolo. It just kind of rides the scramble and stays on top.
Yeah, it's that crazy balance. He starts smothering. Yeah, around the 14-minute mark, he gets on top, and then
yeah,
that's what
I don't want you to think about playing guard. I want you to think about my hand in your mouth.
Which is so crazy because he tries to smother here, and then he loses it, and then you see him try to get his hand back in to smother him again. This is what's so funny. You watch it try to come back under. Watch. Wait. He tries to sneak it in.
Yeah. Has a crossface underhook, and it's like, no, actually, I want to smother again.
Yeah.
So funny.
And this is like one of those things where this is why the Ruotolos and like J-Rod and like certain grapplers are so much fun to watch, because they do things that are stupid and shouldn't work, but then you end up using them and you're like, oh crap, like I can actually use a spoon to cut open an apple.
Yeah. I know personally, I really only do it to certain training partners. Shout out Zach. But I will try to smother him at like really any and all opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's funny realizing in a role that it does make people panic.
Yeah.
Even if it's from a situation where there's no way you could actually like finish a smother, people will just do dumb shit.
Yeah.
Because your hand's in their mouth.
We're at the 13:36 mark, and he's doing it again. But Mica goes for a calf slicer, which is, I wouldn't even consider it like a very. He has his legs switched on this calf slicer. It's the wrong way. Like you want to have your inside leg going the out way.
Well, I guess there is potential for him to kind of turn this into a false sweep.
True.
With his legs going in, which is probably what he was going for. And then just kind of took the calf slicer, but
true.
Yeah. Normally, if you're like going for like just strictly a calf slicer,
yeah,
you probably go the outside.
But
because his legs are on the inside, Kade snatches up a heel hook here.
Yeah. And which is what I was going to say, why you kind of want them on the outside. Right. And even then, like, this actually is a pretty deep calf slicer. Like, his heels to his butt. That's exactly where you want it.
Yeah.
But either he's gritting this out and he doesn't care, or he just has really, like, flexible calves or something, or the bite isn't good on the arm. Maybe the bite, he just didn't shoot his arm through deep enough.
I think it's probably a combination of a couple of things. One, I think Mica's bite in the knee is probably not as deep as it needs to be. And two, I think the Ruotolos are just really flexible and bendy.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it, like, how good at buggies they are.
Yeah,
right?
true.
Like, their knee and, like, quad hamstring flexibility is really good. So he's probably gritting this a little bit, but in all honesty, it's probably not that big of a threat to him.
And I think it probably would hurt less. I know me, if I was in a roll, a calf slicer would hurt less if I saw a heel hook, like, right next to me.
Yeah, if you saw a finish just sitting in your armpit, you're probably like, fuck the calf slicer.
Yeah, like my calf will heal.
Yeah, it's fine.
That's gonna hurt, but this I'm gonna pop his knee. So
yeah,
because it looks really deep.
Yeah, I mean, his heel is to his butt.
Yeah, but this looks deep too, honestly. But I think he just doesn't have the knee pressure.
Yeah, I think he doesn't have the knee pressure.
There's a separation between his hips and his...
Yeah, because of Mica's second foot being inside there. So, kind of strange position. Mica kind of put himself in danger, but also somewhat prevented the danger by his other leg being in there.
God, he's so freaking mean, dude.
Whizzes his face in the ground there.
Yeah, and that's the thing where it's like, you always think it's easy with them, and then they go, no, it's not. Yeah. You know, it's like, oh, he's letting me come up, right? Like, Mica thinks for a second, he goes like, oh, I can just come up here. He's giving me, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll take a single. Oh, actually, no. Never mind, I'll play Guardian.
Yeah, just whips him back. And again, just steps right in the center of his guard.
Yeah. And I will say that's something that...
we're paused at the 12:37 mark.
Is, I think, an important takeaway from the Ruotolos, especially for those of you who want to compete, which is, to a certain degree, you have to just full send things, right? Mm-hmm. Like, even like in tiny little moments like that of, oh, they're coming up on a single, I need to whizzer and Uchi as hard as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I can't, like, sort of Uchi. Like, yeah. I have to put their face in the ground or they're going to wrestle up on me.
True. Right? And that's hard to drill for.
It's hard to drill for because obviously you don't want to hurt your training partners, right? But I think the Ruotolos especially, and honestly this probably comes from the fact that they scrap with each other more often than, like, other people. And, like, they're okay hurting each other. Yeah. But, or, like, have an understanding of how not to. But they can have that switch. But for people who are looking to compete, that's something you kind of have to have.
Yeah.
A
reason I don't compete that much anymore. I just don't have that.
Yeah.
I just don't have that.
And I guess to another little side note here, there's a recent podcast with Kieran Kachuk on the B Team channel, where he kind of talks about his mindset of that he has, like, a alter ego for himself that he calls the bastard, because, you know, in that setting he knows a lot of people he competes with, but, like, it's competition and, like, high stakes competition, and you have to be willing to, like, potentially hurt people.
Yeah.
So,
like, hurt people you like.
Yeah, hurt people you like, who you're friends with, right?
Yeah. And I think you can honestly, I think you even see that in this match throughout this match. I feel like I'm pretty sure they've competed before, but a lot of these guys growing up in the sport have met each other and trained with each other before. But I don't know if you can tell by the energy. Mica's a very nice guy.
Yeah, Mika's a very nice guy. Like, even when he gets bites on things, like, is
respectful
and controlled.
Kade
Whereas Kade rips on everything he grabs here.
Yeah, he does not like you.
Yeah, it's kind of smart on Kade's part. Like, you're at the ADCC finals.
Yeah.
Like, if you see something, you have to rip it.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of sucks, but like, when the stakes are that high and you're at that level of competition, that's what happens.
Yeah. Like, starting up at 12:35. Yeah, he's stepping in.
Here's my foot.
Yeah.
Take it.
Yeah.
Trying to smother him again.
He's even
trying to
blank choke him.
Yeah.
Even Mica does it back. But that and at 12:07, like, he's using his head, he's putting his hand on his throat, like, and like around 11:57, I pause it. Like, even him getting Mica to try to smother back, that's stupid.
Yeah, it's such a stupid move on Mika's part to be in bottom, like, headquarters trying to smother the guy on top, but Kade has elicited that reaction from him.
Yeah,
right.
Because he's so mean and disrespectful that it's getting your opponent to do things that are stupid. Like, you shouldn't be extending an arm at all.
Yeah, at all for that position.
Yeah. And even in these positions, you can see he's just pushing all this pressure on Mica, bringing his legs to his face. Like, he's putting his opponents in positions they don't want to be in. And even taking this and cranking it.
Yeah, and here tries to steam lock him. And I think also, and this will probably be a thing for takeaways as well, but I think there's a important lesson here between Mica and Kade where, and it might be the kind of, like, because of how nice Mica is, and respectful, that I feel like he's almost a little bit too comfortable, putting his feet in places.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's something he's changed after this match, but
I mean, okay, actually, real fast, we're stopping at the 11-minute mark, but what you're saying, the Mica now is much different than the Mica here.
Yes.
Let's just be very clear.
Very, very
They're
clear.
different grapplers, but
the Mica now is a fucking monster.
Is a different animal than the Mica here.
Completely different person. But in this match in particular, I feel like he's way too comfortable. Like this position I should be fine because of the grip I have on his leg, and almost kind of disregards where his feet are.
Yeah.
Right. And like multiple times, almost gets heel hooked in the calf crank, almost gets steama locked in, just that kind of like single leg X position. So like, I guess kind of a takeaway from that to like the training room, be conscious of where your limbs are.
Yeah.
Right. When you're executing a technique or a move, like,
and
kind of, I would say try to prioritize positions or situations where they're asymmetrical. Right?
Yeah.
Where you are safe and they're not.
Yeah. And that's what's so special about the Ruotolos too, is they do things that your training partners are not going to do.
Yeah.
These guys are going to do things that are ridiculous.
Yeah. And like
most of your training partners probably won't even punish bad foot placement.
Yeah. Like, to that point, Kade and Ty kind of live in that symmetrical danger. Right? Like, they'll just give you a limb and then battle out from there. Yeah. Now has Mica trying to smother him from bottom half.
Which is, if you're spending your mind thinking to smother someone from bottom half, you're not thinking about what you should be doing.
Yeah. You're not thinking about any of the checklist items you should be thinking about for bottom half guard.
Yes. There's much better things you can do with that hand.
Yeah. And here I think almost goes to that same, I guess, Hadragreichi position.
Yeah.
Because kind of pseudo close guard.
Yeah, he talks about it on Lex Friedman's podcast.
And here Kade tries to wrist lock him.
Which, honestly...
looks deep.
I think it is deep, and I think it did freaking hurt. Because that's a taped up wrist.
Yeah.
And I think there's a reason Kade did it is because it was a taped up wrist. Like, I don't think he wasn't thinking... he wasn't thinking, oh, I need to be careful with this wrist. He's like, that thing's broken. I'm going to break it again. Yeah, they're just mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, they find themselves in this position quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I think they've found themselves so often in this position that, like, Kade has now knows what his common reaction is. And it's like every single time he's getting more and more comfortable there.
Yeah, I feel like he's now at this point in the match has seen this same position so many times that I think he's starting to recognize
what his options are and
what his options are, what the faults are in the position. So there's a moment here, kind of a part two or repeat of an earlier moment where Mica goes for this kind of similar calf crank position and makes a pretty big mistake here of pummeling that foot inside. Right. So
we're paused
sort
at
of
8:14.
So a very strange position for Mica here. He has almost like a backside 50-50, but also like a calf crank bear trap position. So his feet are crossed, but also like backside. But he is both hands on the far leg, right? So normally, backside 50-50, you'd be looking to heel hook, in this case, Kade's left leg, right? Yeah. Neither of his hands are going to the left leg, right? They're both on Kade's right leg, which to me is a little strange. So, as you'll see in like 1 second here, he pummels that Mica's left leg. He pummels it even deeper, which allows Kade to backstep his right leg past Mica's knee line and go right for a pretty devastating heel hook.
Rips it.
Like, totally rips it. Belly down. Like,
yeah.
I imagine I popped him pretty bad here.
Yeah, and I would make the argument. I think he threw it through because he didn't feel like he would have the braking pressure with just this leg on the inside. He threw this one in, I think, to be able to get braking pressure on this bottom one, but he just was not fast enough to realize this is what Kade actually probably has been drilling or sees this whole time. Because if we have audio to this, you can hear Ty yell, "There it is."
Yeah.
He says, "There it is." So it's like they've obviously drilled these kind of positions before where countering leg lockers off putting their leg too far through or putting themselves in a bad position.
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah.
And it's just barely on the knee line, honestly.
Yeah, honestly, watching it back, he's kind of not even on the knee line. But the fact that Mica's other leg is inside of that position, he kind of gives himself the fulcrum that Kade needs.
Yeah.
Right? Where now his left leg, or his left knee is over his right shin.
Yeah.
So even though Kade doesn't fully have his knee line, he still has a lever under his knee to break on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's so fast. Boom. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
There we go.
Just kind of a brilliant sequence by Kade there.
Youngest ADCC champion.
Yeah. What's crazy is either one of them would have been.
Yeah. No matter what.
18.
Yeah.
Or was 18 at the time.
Yeah.
So.
No. These guys are great. But, yeah. Amazing showing. And, like, you know what's so funny? Throughout this match, they show Mica what he looks like. He looks completely different now.
Yeah.
Like he looks like he's aged like 5-6 years. I'm not gonna lie. Like he's a different animal now.
Yeah.
There's
a reason for that, but
there might be some reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the sponsor right there, the bio something.
Maybe a second puberty of some kind, Yeah.
But, yeah. But yeah. Both great athletes. Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. And it was really impressive to me because he's kind of a crowd favorite. You can tell he's a crowd favorite, and it's because they're kind of spazzes. They're kind of mean and they're just spazzy people.
Yeah. And like because of that, they almost always have fun matches.
Yeah.
Right. Because they generate the excitement.
Yeah.
Right. They push the match into a place where it is really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Because they initiate such unorthodox and like weird positions.
Yeah. Alrighty. I'm going to go right into my takeaways. I'm pulling up my notes right now. Yeah. We were talking about it before, but we're just going to reiterate just their style. And how their style is so unorthodox and so unique that it is hard to prepare or mimic them in the gym. Very hard. So that's why I think they do so well against other grapplers, because everyone trains a certain way, does technique a certain way, and then they are so unorthodox that it is hard to mimic them, but it is easier for them to find people to mimic you.
Right. Like you said, we kind of talked about this a little bit before the podcast. But if you think about the fact that they have each other to train with and have had each other to train with since they were like 3 years old, which is insane to me. So they together have kind of culminated and built this like very kind of outlier style that they both have, right? So you're not going to have a person in your gym that's like either of them, right?
Yeah.
That's like even close to either of them, right? Body type or style. Whereas they can very easily pull people in from Atos or just from anywhere else that are going to be like you.
Yeah.
Right. Which is a huge benefit to them in terms of competition, because it's, I imagine, a nightmare to try to game plan
Yeah.
what to do for either of them, especially Kade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, we'll see how long they do grappling for, because I know they're young and I think they have aspirations of outside of grappling anyways.
Yeah. I mean, Kade himself has a MMA match, I believe, in June.
Okay.
I think.
Oh, wow.
It's like
coming out.
pretty close.
Yeah. And I guess part of their style too is just being the knockout artists of jiu-jitsu. Like there are these guys that are so explosive that and they're so unorthodox, and they're like almost like counter jiu-jitsu, which is never how I would ever recommend someone get good at jiu-jitsu is as a counter grappler.
Yeah.
I would always recommend someone be a forward grappler, or like a
proactive
grappler. Yeah. So your opponent doesn't have time to think, but it's like these guys are the opposite of that.
Yeah. The Darces, the Buggies,
yeah.
I think of the same ADCC, like Ty and Marigali. Ty almost got him with a Dars.
Yeah.
Much bigger, stronger, arguably like technically better opponent. And kind of to your point, like how they're kind of the knockout artists. You know what I mean? almost got him with a darts in the middle of the match. So
Yeah, and they're so and it's so funny because they'll be on top, even though they're the ones, like you're saying, proactive. They're the proactive grappler being on top, but they're still reactionary,
right,
while being on top, which is something you just don't see a lot of, you know. I know myself, and I was saying that earlier on in the podcast, if I had like someone to describe what my no-gi game looked like right now, it would be either a Kade Ruotolo type, where it's just like I just try to be as annoying and smothering as possible. And like if there's something, I'll just say that one way I described them is they are not a technique-based grapplers, they're concept-based grapplers, right? So it's like they do things that conceptually are right, but technique wise, I wouldn't teach. Like, so there are ways of getting rid of underhooks by just squeezing your way through an underhook or something like that. Or, if you don't, you need to keep someone's hips away from you. You put like your hand like somewhere on their hip where they can't move it. Like doing these simple things to stop the simple concepts of your opponent's techniques to work, like finding out what they need to make their technique work and just taking apart one step of it and then completely nullifying the move.
right.
They're very good at that. And I would say that's like what I do a lot of my no-gi grappling is just trying to frustrate people. It's mostly because I'm a troll, but
And you are.
I'm a troll grappler. I do my best to just troll people out of their enjoyable. I find that my favorite way to grapple is when someone has like their technique almost perfectly down, just putting a monkey wrench just like literally like near the end of the move so they can't do anything, and then just leaving it there and be like, yeah, you can't go anymore.
Yeah. I will say, as very good friend and very close training partner, he is fucking infuriating. He's annoying as hell.
But so, and it's not a beautiful thing to watch either.
No.
I'm probably the ugliest rolling person I've ever seen. I've filmed myself rolling and I said, I'm never posting this ever. I film myself roll and I go, that is ugly. I thought I looked cool when I roll. I look like the floppy inflatable tube man. But yeah, that just takes such joy in being a troll. But things I'm going to take away is stuff like, because I feel like my style is very similar to theirs, there's some things I realized I'm not doing that I could add to my game like tomorrow. And that's just playing more with leg pinning. Like, I played with it for a little bit, but I just never settled into my guard passing. But even like, I don't know why it's weird. Sometimes we fall away from techniques because they don't work right away. Right. But then we forget, like, sometimes there actually is a trial period where you're going to get worse.
Right.
Before you get better. And even being like a purple belt who's like falling into their ways, I sometimes like forget that you have to be worse before you get better, and I forget about that. And so I think I need to start using it a little bit more and just see how it works. And I might just fall in love with it and start doing it more often. But yeah, like, and just, it's inspiring to watch them and just see how what they do is they take your preconceived notions of how you should be as a grappler, but grappling the way they want to and making it work, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say probably one of my biggest takeaways is more of like a training philosophy. It's something I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier in the podcast of in training against people like of like a lower skill level, sort of allowing them to initiate their game and like to a deeper and deeper degree, and then trying to problem solve that, right? So like in guard passing, like just step a leg in the middle and see what your training partner does, right? Let them get kind of deep into their game and then try to counter from there, right? Instead of just trying to smash all the time.
True. No, that's good. And also what you said earlier about just intensity.
Yeah.
And like a takeaway, just especially for competition, we don't want to hurt our training partners, but understanding there are moments where you really do have to turn it up and be aggressive. And like it doesn't have to be what defines you in the training room, but when you compete, you have to be able to.
Yeah. When you compete, you have to have a switch.
Yeah.
Like it is, I would say for me, a lesson that's taken a very long time to actually learn. Because in the training room, I have very much the opposite philosophy.
Yeah.
Right. I like my training partners. I don't want to hurt them.
Yeah.
And so it's been very hard to adjust to the opposite end of that spectrum for competition of like being mean.
And you would be surprised too, especially those interested in competing, how far that can actually take you in grappling competition.
Yeah.
Like aggression and not caring about your opponent can take you a lot farther than some technique can. And I don't want to be like, your technique is for naught. You should always be practicing your technique as your number one thing, but you would be surprised how much people just win competitions on pure aggression and no technique.
Yeah.
Especially like at blue and white belt.
Especially at blue and white belt.
Yeah.
It's almost the majority of what it is.
Yes. It's just people tanking their way through. Kade Ruotolo, he's signed with one, so he's kind of like, I think he's in servitude now at this point.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, I think they make good enough money and they sign contracts that I don't think they can compete at Flow is once they, or something like that. Because I think that's why Mikey doesn't, like Musameshi.
I don't know.
I might be wrong.
No, because Mikey's done a couple WNL matches.
Oh, true. But either they get paid so much that they don't need to.
I think it's either that, I don't know. One's kind of a strange organization. Like I'm pretty sure they operate in the red.
Yeah.
Like it's cool because they pay their athletes a lot. But they also like don't make money as an organization. So it's kind of a weird concept there. But yeah, I mean, he's coming back for ADCC. He's the returning champ for 77. We'll see. Like I said, he does have an MMA match scheduled for, I believe, June, which is fairly close to ADCC. So I guess injury depending.
And I would we didn't bring it up here. So I'll make the argument. I think this is actually a pretty bad cut for Kade to make 77. Because you look at him, he looks skinny, pretty gaunt. He's much bigger than Mica in this.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't mention it during the start, but this is a big cut for him, I think. His brother did 88, which is a 20-pound difference.
Yeah. And Ty at 88 looks like good.
Yes.
Like, and then honestly, I think it's probably Cade's like natural weight. But they just don't want to compete in the same class. So Kade cuts 77.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's kind of a rough cut for him.
Yeah, like you can, when you see him, he looks a little more sunken in the face. Like he doesn't look healthy when he's at 77, I'll be honest. He looks big. So it didn't affect his performance that much.
He still trounces. So
he's still like, and it might be too, we'll bring it back to his style. Like it might be how economic he is with how he moves and everything. He's not tight and rigid, but he doesn't seem like he burns that much energy, and he can just roll for a long time because of that style. But I don't know if he'll compete at 77 again. I know I've been surprised before, probably will, to be a defending champion, but if his brother doesn't compete, but we'll see what happens. I'm not too worried about it. Like, I know he's just a good grappler. I would say you just keep an eye out on him because he's always going to be in exciting matches.
Yeah.
It's always going to be exciting. And Mica, we already talked about our views of Mica on the first episode of this pod. And yeah, we think he's really talented now. And he's like, I think he would beat this Kade.
Yeah. I think in the time between I think Mica has improved by like leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing down there in Brazil, but he's gotten very good.
Yeah. I think this match is what put a fire under his butt a little bit. He needed to lose at the highest level.
Yeah.
But again, like also Kade, the way he's been performing at 1, he looks like he's just bullying people.
Yeah. I mean,
Leandro or Francisco Lowe isn't a slouch.
Yeah. Because that's kind of the thing is like before Francisco Lowe, like that was kind of the joke of one is like they're just feeding a bunch of Sambo guys. Like don't know like what they're doing. But then like these recent matches, like Francisco Lowe and Michelle, and they hit like the same submission on them, made it look easy. So it's like, okay, never mind.
I know you try to trash the Ruotolos. You're like, they're not fighting anyone. They're just beating Sambo guys that they just fucking maul. Like these newer guys, these other guys are like, all right, I guess I was wrong.
Yeah, it's like they're actually pretty good.
Yeah, so they're still really great. So I would watch the Ruotolos just for the amount of fun. Like you don't even have to watch them for technique. I don't even watch them for the cool crap they do. Smothers from guard. I guess if you want to hate your partners to frickin' hate you. But yeah, that was the podcast. If you like the podcast, give us some positive reviews on Spotify, Podbean, on YouTube. Hit us subscribe or like. Hit the like button. Those are like it takes you like 2 seconds, but it does us a huge helps us out so much. Also, we have the Patreon. We're gonna have a new episode up on there, or we're gonna do a book club. This next one is gonna be Dune. Our first ever is gonna Lisa Gabe. We're gonna do the Dune book as our first book club. Jack has read all 6 books. I will have only read the 1, but we're gonna do a discussion on it.
Yeah, they get wild.
They get wild. So I'm gonna tell him what I think and my theories, and he's gonna scoff and laugh at me.
Like, haha. If only you knew.
Yes. What we're gonna be doing.
Spice can do.
We're gonna go over the book club, and that's gonna be on the Patreon. If you know anyone that would benefit from listening to this podcast, hit them up and show them this. Send them a link, because the best way to spread a podcast isn't through advertising, isn't through all their jargon. It's through word of mouth and telling all your friends that, like, hey, listening to these guys talk about jiu-jitsu, it's actually pretty cool. So anything else you want to say, Jack?
No, just echoing the same thoughts. Thank you for watching and tuning in. We appreciate it, and hopefully you like this. Hope you learned something, and have a good day.